Grand Rising. I felt the need to share a bit more about the elements and the element that is very, very important, the element of water, because in the landscape of the water within our element system, there are the most programs present. And why is that? Because in the element of water that is connected to the kidney and the bladder, um, the emotion of fear lives there. And this whole system, of course, is just, based on fear. And the opposite emotion also lives there, and it's trust. And trust is so important to go fly through your shadow work in a high speed. Yeah. And also within the element of water, we have the basic energy. When we get born into this avatar, we receive from our mother, a amount of energy, and that's what it is. That's the energy we have to use wisely as long as we are here in this dream game. So you see, water is very important, and it's a very good starting point. And water is also very important to use if you are working through your programs, opening them up, to sit with your feet in the water or your hands in the water. I was always sitting at the pond. I was living in the forest during that time when I was working through most of the programs. And I always had my feet in the water or my hands in the water. And when it was cold during winter time, when there was snow and ice, I would sit in the bathtub and so use water. And our essence, our first cell, our source, where we have our original frequency, our golden electromagnetic spark. The best way to describe it is like a frog egg, this watery substance. And within that substance, there's this electromagnetic spark that can take on, once it's formless. That's why we have to detach. That is so important. And so we can become formless. We can let ourselves fall into our own first cell, our own source, which is also water, substance in essence, from my experience. And from the nothingness, we can take on original form or new form. I believe we can take on any form we want, because when I was going through the process, and I am programmed as a seer, and you can find it in your asteroid chart. If you want to have a mirror experience of your programs, a good way is to dive into your astrology and asteroid chart, because the asteroids, they all have names. And if you dive into the names and dive into the stories, there we go again, stories that belong to that name, you find out that it's a rapper, how you call it, it's exactly your life here. and all the programs are there. And for me, it was fun to see that I am programmed to be a seer. So, it's just a program and a weaver. So that explains why I work with the mineral pathways in triangle settings. And but the mineral pathways are nothing more than rivers, you know. It's also fluid. It's a combination of light electromagnetic together with fluid, water. So it's, yeah, yeah. And the best way to see yourself, that's how I always did it. I saw myself as this tree, and my roots represent the dark programs. And that can be galactic lives, that can be past lives, that can be traumas from this life. But of course, they are all stories. And and the branches represent the happy, the happy lives, the galactic lives, and the ones they trick you into the new age BS. Yeah, where you start believing that you are a Pleiadian light master, you know, and you become that ID entity, and you start giving courses, and you are like the vessel, and in the meanwhile, they're just sucking you dry, and manipulating you. But I've been there, so no judgment from me. It's all part of this game, this dream game. Um, yeah, so water is the essence of our first source cell. I don't give it a form because it's formless and it can take on any form. Because when we do the work, and I have experienced it as a seer, so I've seen all the shapes and the forms, and I've been all the shapes and the forms, and therefore I'm convinced that I can take on any form I want once have once I have worked through it and know the frequency. But that's all part of this dream game that contains 144,000 stories, different programs. Yeah, that we also describe as, you know, galactic realms or dimensions. But they are the cells within your system here. And it's only the first cell, through my experience, that is truly the essence of you. And the rest is all manipulation. And but to start the journey, that goes for everyone. When you start the journey, for me, it started with Kundalini, the fake Kundalini. But that's just a way, that's yeah, that's just the way the game works. And it's the Kundalini is needed to, get sucked into the new age way. And it's the beginning of the shadow work. So, at least for me, it was like that. And when the Kundalini was activated, it happened during an interaction with a shapeshifter or a reptilian that hypnotized me. But that's old news. If you want to know more about that, go back you know, go back and look at my videos where I share the story, because I'm not going to repeat myself. But I ended up in this black, dark, whatever space, jumped out of my body and was in that space. And there was this huge, huge reptilian devil like um, being, shadow being. And and when I went back into my body, the first memory that followed, you know, after that, the first that followed was me being in a fluid. It was physical, but also fluid, a mix of fluid and physical. I was very big. I was like, well, I don't know, 20 times bigger than I am now. And I could take on any form. It was like Earth, but not this Earth. It was an Earth with trees like Avatar, but only bigger, you know, even bigger. And it was physical, but also electromagnetic water substance. And I could take on the form I wanted. So I could become the dolphin, but I could also become the mermaid, and I could become the whale and the bird, and etc. So that is the only memory story that is still up until this moment, this now moment, because that's like 10 years ago. It's for me still a truth, a true memory, because the frequency is the frequency of my original source frequency, my first cell. So therefore I can, you know, and everything else that followed, you know, beautiful stories, beautiful galactic stories and past life stories, and also a lot of bad shit, you know, because that's also part of it. If you go through your programming, and especially if you're working through the water landscape and you go through your fear programs to get to trust, you know, there's a lot of dark shit. Yeah. And of course, it depends on the programming you have. I have Nessus presence in my programming, so abuse and rape and attempts on my life, that's part of my programming. So I experienced it as a child, but that's just the trauma that activates a fear program in your water essence. So you trust, trusting yourself goes away, you know. And it all starts in the water element landscape within yourself. And yeah, so when you do the work, just place your hands in the water or your feet in the water, just, you know, to then it's easier to connect to your first original cell. Yeah. So there's 144,000 stories, um, which to me are cells, or well, they're not all activated, you know. We all have different programs, but some are overlapping, and we have to exchange, activate each other, exchange keys, how you want to call it, and then just, you know, and then ways, you know, we say goodbye again. Just a fellow traveler for just a moment in time, and then we have the collective programs we all have, and that is why the outside screen, the collective outside screen, yeah, is still what it is, because like I don't know, 90% is still locked into fear, and so, but the collective screen, that's not important. If you work through the programs and you come home to your first cell, everything's deactivated. There's only peace. There is only peace and the reflection of peace. And sometimes you see, I also, reptilians and spider beings and the shadow beings with the red eyes and the torture, past lives, and the cannibalism, etc. I've experienced it all, and it was very real, very real. And what I experienced as a child was also real. But once you are home, in your peace, in your first cell, home in your own waters, it cannot get to you anymore. It's like you become invisible for the system, for the game master. Yeah. Yeah. And I guess when I, during the Kundalini, when I shut out of my body and I met this devil-like huge reptilian, that was like the game master, activating the game. When I look back at it now, I think it's something like that. And I got one true memory because it was just like this. They have to, when darkness is at its you could say at its powerful, how you say it in English, I don't know, but when it's very powerful, the darkness, you got this huge, I got this huge reptilian devil-like being in front of me, and then at the same time the light, just the power within is there also. So there is that was the most clear moment. For one second I was home, and then the game started, you know deprogramming yourself and traveling through all the programs. Yeah. And for me, through the element landscape. That became my way eventually. When I decided to let go of everything I had learned up till then, because nothing was working. And I was so ill and I wasn't getting any better. And, I was full with parasites. And when I decided to only trust myself, only trust my own source, everything accelerated. Yeah, with my feet in the water or my hands in the water, and just following the emotion in the moment. So, when I was feeling anger, I knew I had to work with the wood element, the wood landscape within me, and I would also align myself with the element outside myself. So I would go sit with a tree, and I had my favorite tree there, and I would sit there, and it was on the water side, and with my feet in the water, and being one with the tree, I would just, because I'm a seer, I do it through seeing. Well, not anymore, because, it's just, there's nothing anymore, because I'm detached now. And, but the way I did it, I think it's important to share for the ones who have decided to also work with the elements, is that I always connect the inner with the outer. So, the wood within with the tree. And then I would just sit. And the way I work with the wood element within my own element system, I would see myself as the tree. And the center of the tree was the place where I was safe, and where I could reload, and where I could get to creativity. And if I would go up to the branches, I would just, check if there were branches that were sick or, broken, and then I would go there, and I just followed whatever sound came through, from my source, just the sound and an energy motion that I would place on my liver, because anger belongs to the liver. And then I would just open up that organ and just dive through a portal, and it was always water for me, the mineral pathways, the meridians, and I experienced them as a watery substance, and a portal. And then a movie would start, and then it was in the beginning I didn't understand, but eventually, I knew, okay, that's part of me, that's a soul aspect, and I need to bring it with me because it belongs to me, and alchemize it to my first cell, my source. So, the light gets back, or the electromagnetic power, golden power, gets back to where it belongs, because it belongs to us. Yeah. So that's how I did it. Yeah. And when I was working with fire, because I also lost my passion during that time, and that's part of the fire element, and the heart is part of that, the organ, the heart, and I would make myself a big fire. Yeah. And also, just go. The tree was something I was always working with, not only when I was working in the wood landscape, but the tree was always my center point, with 4 main rivers, and of course a lot of side rivers, which I refer to as the mineral pathways. And then I would just go, when I was working with fire, I would just go above the tree and just look at the earth as a whole, and my own earth, just look at it from a whole, and just see where is fire, where is my nature damaged through fire. And then I would go there and just, make a sound and make an energy movement on my heart, and then I would dive in and see whatever was there, and burning alive as an Indian. Yeah, and watching my woman also being stabbed to death. That was one life in my fire element. Yeah, a past life. Yeah. And in my metal element, metal landscape, it's like, metal landscapes also, it's like the stones, the crystals, the dikes that keep the water, moving in the right direction. And sometimes when there is so much fear, water, kidney, um, the water, becomes so wild, and it goes beyond the dikes, and it goes into all directions, and then you have the chaos. There's total chaos, and then there is fire needed, so to calm down the water. But there's a kitten in my garden. Yeah, well, so yeah, well, So just a short message, well, 25 minutes, okay, about the power of water and yeah, and just a reminder or when you're going through it, if you're not a seer, if you're not programmed to be a seer, know that intent is enough, is always enough. Believing that you are the alchemist and just follow your feeling, you know, and um, and then you will also, you know, get where you need to be and demagnetize the programs. So yeah, we all have our own unique way, and yeah, the elements. It's just the purest thing here. You know, it's the nature here and the animals. They also have the connection to their first original source frequency cell. So they are like this mirror and they can assist us, and we are them and they are us. But also, they are so much smaller. They are not in their true form. But I guess that is why I am sharing this. Work, work with nature, you know, because you are made out of nature. And, you know, this is our portal, you know. We cannot go around it. It's, if you're looking for answers, and don't look outside yourself, you know. It's all within you. Yeah. Yeah, and you don't have to go to 144,000 programs or stories. And you have some. We all have different amounts we have to work through, and yeah. But place your feet in the water. Yeah, do that. Yeah, that's a good one. Or your hands in the water. Yeah. If you work with earth, if you work with the earth element, place your hands in the earth, you know. With the metal, use a stone or a crystal. Yeah, make a fire, sit with the tree, and well, and enjoy the show. Yeah, you can experience peace here. Yeah. You just have to detach yourself from everything. Don't be fooled by all the ID entities. They want to sell to you. So you get hooked and you repeat the same program over and over again. Well, that's it for now, I guess, because there's not much to share. I've already shared what I wanted to share in the videos before, and nothing has changed. For me, everything is still the same, you know, everything's in essence nothing. And if I look at a rainbow, I look at the rainbow, the colors become gold, and then there's this electromagnetic frequency, you know, and when I look behind that, there it becomes water, and then it becomes nothing. And when I traveled back, you know, when I discovered that I saw literally a code entering and it activated my third eye, and I was in this movie and it felt very real, and I was like, what the fuck? I traveled back through all my experience to see what's behind it, you know, what's behind the frequency. And I discovered there was nothing. So it was all manipulation, except the one I described in this video, the first one, after I, you know, jumped out of my body and met, I guess, the game master reptilian. Yeah, so I don't deny You know, all the stories, they're all here, you know, the cabal and the Baal and the cults, and it's all there, but don't give your energy to it. Don't do any research, you know, don't read books about it, because you still, even though you can say you detach from it, but as soon as you read it, you know, there's this, you feed it. So, you know, the collective screen, if we ever want to change that, I don't think it's going to change you during my avatar time here. But we have to, you know, we are the dream creators. And if we decide to detach from everything, you become invisible. They cannot reach you anymore. They cannot take anything from you anymore. You know, the frequencies don't bother you and the skies don't bother you. You're just like, oh, free vitamin C. How wonderful is that? Because you become the alchemist and you have reprogrammed yourself. And you are just present right here, right now. And the past doesn't exist and the future doesn't exist. There are no worries. You know, there's just peace, and there's fun and there's laughter. And it is possible. And, well, I guess that's enough. Much love from me to you. Bye for now.